This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back. Last time we got together with her, it was an eye-opener. It was an earful of things that I believe many of us wonder about, but don't know where to turn for those answers. We centered on narcissism last time we got together with her, and for good reason. She is an author of two amazing books where you can reclaim your life. And this whole thing, one of the books is called The Silent Abuse. You might not even know that you're connected to a narcissist and could be living a different life as she made those changes in her life. And today we're going to talk about narcissistic or narcissism rage with Sherry Canino, who's back on the program. How you doing today?
It's so great to be back, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. And you are not only an author, but also somebody that helps people, coaches them in general with life, but you also have this in your wheelhouse because you went through a number of situations involving narcissists. So I'm making you our expert on that niche. I just am. You're the go-to here. The rage part, I try to process that and connect it to narcissism and what we learned last time we all got together. How does the rage come into play here?
So rage is a lot different than like you and I getting angry. Like, we get upset, we might get angry, and anger is actually an action emotion, right? So it's meant to spur change. Rage is not going to change anything. It's not going to spur change in the narcissist. It's not going to fix anything. They're not going to wake up one morning and be like, oh, yes, I want to do better. It's really like a giant toddler acting out. So an adult throwing a fit. Only when a 2-year-old throws a fit and, rolls around on the floor, kicks their feet, we're not frightened by them. We're like, okay, they're acting out. No big deal. Give them a minute and they'll calm down. With a narcissist who's a grown man or woman, that's not really the same thing. And it's a lot more scary when you have an adult acting out in a rage.
Does that rage present because the narcissist isn't getting their way, loosely put?
Yes, and they are actually stunted in their emotional and mental growth. So
they don't even know what to do
Yep.
at that point.
Yep. They have no capacity to handle anything that upsets them. The problem is for us or someone who might be in a relationship with them, or if it's a parent, what do you do? Like the whole thing is that all of a sudden this person is in an outburst and there is no calming them down. There's not like, okay, go over there and take a breath like you or I would and stop being angry, settle down and stop feeling this anger so you can compose yourself. The more you try to calm them down, the worse that they get. And rage can show up in a lot of different ways. And it often happens very unexpectedly because they take everything as an attack. So if you were to be in a relationship, for example, with somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder, and then all of a sudden you might bring up something that hurt your feelings that they did or said, they would get what's called a narcissistic injury. And they would immediately feel like you're attacking them. They don't have the mental capacity to think, oh, this person's just expressing their feelings. So they go into a rage.
Because the only opinion that matters is theirs, I would think.
Yes. Because again, let's think about them, at best, they're maybe like 9 years old in their mental capacity. And as Professor Sam Vaknin says, that's a really progressed narcissist, if you will, someone who's actually like gotten a little bit older in their mental capacity. They're usually about 2 or 3. And
Wow.
it's pretty scary. I mean, I'd love to share a couple of instances. So I guess that our audience could understand what narcissistic rage really is. Um, because I think when you're in a narcissistic abusive relationship, you get numb and
Mm.
used to their behavior. Unfortunately, they condition you to and manipulate you to accept it as normal, and
Mm.
it's not. And I actually just had a conversation with somebody the other day, um, someone I'm friends with in the horse world, and I was explaining to her what had happened to me. And she was like, oh, it was like a light bulb went off. She was like, oh my gosh, that's what happened to me in my last relationship. So a lot of people probably don't know this about me, but last year I was in a relationship with what's now a diagnosed narcissist, and he got ragey over absolutely nothing. And this is the thing, you have no idea what the trigger is going to be. So um it was literally over a bag of horse feed. And it had been like basically he had prior picked up a bag of horse feed for me, put it on his card. I didn't have the receipt. The bag was cut. I'm like, I need you to take this back and return it. That was it. Rage. He just, there was no, I mean, at this point, there was no raised voices. He went into a complete rage, excuse me, and started screaming at me. It, nothing I did or said could calm him down. Of course, we're at my home, so where do I go, right? We're out in the horse barn, and he starts getting in my face. Like they will scream in your face, like millimeters away, and just screaming. They might not even be screaming words, they're just screaming. And then he started throwing me up against his truck.
Mm.
And I got in his truck to get away from him because I couldn't. I had just had 4 broken ribs like 3 weeks prior, 4 weeks prior, from falling when I went to get on my horse. So I was terrified. I mean, you would be terrified anyways, but I was like, I can't even handle myself. I'm a pretty strong, young, strong woman, working on a farm, but I was terrified. And when all was said and done, like he got out of, like, I finally got out of his truck because I was like trying to get away. And he made the story up that he was trying to get away from me. I had my knife in my pocket from a utility knife, I was emptying feed bags, wasn't like I was like
Hmm.
premeditated, like, let me do something. And I pulled it out and I was like, get away from me, just get away from me. Probably some 4-letter words that I won't use on air. And he just kept getting in my face saying, you know, effing stab, like screaming at the top of his lungs in my face. When you're doing that, what people don't understand is that in itself, that's assault. When somebody is coming at you, that's assault. The battery is when it becomes physical.
Yeah.
So I'm already being assaulted and had been. Um, so yeah, he got cut. More from his own like leaning into it purposely. Then he called the cops on me. So guess who got arrested?
I was waiting for that, by the way. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Never been in trouble with the law for my whole life. I was mortified. Actually, I guess like whatever, throw me in jail. But all I could think about is who's going to get my horses in. I got my little dog. Like all I could think about was my animals. But the rage is terrifying. And this young woman that I just spoke with, she was like, yeah, he would just keep coming back. He would keep coming back and just screaming in my ear the same thing over and over again. She's like, then he'd go out to the garage and he'd come right back in and start screaming in my ear. And so when people say to people who have been victimized, why don't you leave? This doesn't happen on day one, or you would. It happens after all of the love bombing, after all the good things in the beginning that you think this person has a good side. They don't pull out their, torture day one. And so you develop cognitive dissonance and you're traumatized. They manipulate you and basically brainwash you. You feel like you have nowhere to go. Like they're it. You need them. You need them in your life.
Or they make you think that you do.
Yes,
Like
that's what I mean.
you can't survive without them.
100%.
And then you just say, well, I got mad today. It happens. I'll just suck it up. And
Mhm.
then because you, like you said, you become numb. It just becomes a normal day. Mm,
Yes.
wow. And quite honestly, it's not easy to just say, I'm going to change my life. I'm moving, you're moving. I'm going to make changes right now. Because sometimes, I guess in the beginning, they court you and
Mhm.
they suck you in. And now
Mhm.
I don't want to say you're stuck, but you're mentally stuck because we are creatures of habit. We don't like change. There's fear involved and all of that. And gosh forbid, years later, you have kids, you have a house. Like this is going to be a big change, to move on from
Yeah.
somebody like that. Do you feel that those who are narcissists are always that way, but it just presents itself later?
So according to the studies and the DSM and Professor Sam Vaknin, who is actually a diagnosed narcissist twice and a professor of psychology, and he's like, studied narcissism for like 29, 30 years. It develops in childhood with the
Hmm.
mother. When he calls it not a good enough mother or a dead mother. So not physically dead, but mentally and emotionally checked out. Um, it could be, the mom is abusive, or maybe the mom works all the time and she's not there to nurture the child. So from, you know, 0 to 3 years, it really is the mom. It's the mom that at that time, if she's not doing what she needs to do to nurture the child properly, let the child individuate from her,
Hmm.
then it doesn't happen. And so they can't ever go back to childhood and start over. So they can never change. They can learn how to manage their behaviors, but most of them don't. Most of them are not, they're in complete denial. They're not going to go to therapy. If they go to therapy, it's to get narcissistic supply, it's to play the victim.
Hmm.
It's not to get better or to get help.
When you say the mom, does that apply to males and females?
Yes.
Wow. Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not bashing moms out there. Like we all do the best that we can do.
Every parent does, and we do the best we
Yeah.
can do with what we have and we're given. What do we have? What were we given? What we got from
Right.
our parents and what they got from their parents. It's
Yeah.
the manual to be a parent never showed up at my place. Still
Right.
waiting for it years later.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Ditto. But we also have to understand that, like, when everybody's like, well, everyone's not a narcissist. No, everybody's not. But there's a lot of people out there very high in narcissistic traits because it doesn't have to be physical abuse or the mom, being mean or not protecting the child from the father or things like that we think of typical abuse to be. It doesn't have to be sexual abuse. That can be a lot of those things. And I think a lot of the older people that are do have NPD, probably that was their story. But a lot of the younger people coming up and stuff from the baby boomers and stuff, they're the spoiled children, the entitled ones. So thinking your child can never do no wrong, putting expectations on your child that are just unrealistic like that, parentifying your child. So it isn't always, sexual or physical or verbal abuse. It can be the over, abuse, I guess, which I never knew long time ago either. I mean, I would ever think like spoiling your kid is abuse, but I guess think about it. If they don't learn what's right or wrong and they think that they're like, better than everybody else, that's exactly what you're teaching them. Like you don't have to abide by these rules because you're better.
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, I know somebody, um, not deeply, but they admit, and they're going through their journey and self-discovery. I'm not saying they're a narcissist. I wouldn't, no, I don't know them that well. I wouldn't know that side. But they admit that they turned around one day and said that, um, I was coddled when I was younger, and I got to a certain point where, then life had changed. But, kind of what you're describing, where they did have that entitlement and all of that, and they admit it. I don't know if that could turn into narcissism, but the as I understand it better through you, the rage thing, I could clearly understand, the frustration of somebody diagnosed like that, not being able to make a mark on you. What do you do in that situation? I mean, yours, that turned physical in some ways. How do you deal with it? When they're spewing their stuff.
So that's the whole thing is even Professor Sam Vaknin will say, if they start to rage, get out of there. Like, because when they start to rage, they actually turn into a secondary psychopath. So they're completely dangerous. They're in psychosis. They're not in their right minds. There's no calming them down. There's no anger management for narcissistic rage. So forget about it. All of the therapists out there that are like, let's give them anger management. They cannot manage this. They can't.
Hmm.
It's not about anger management. So get out of there. That's exactly what he says. Leave for a few days, whatever you got to do. Grab your stuff and just go because you don't know how long the episode's going to last because they totally live up in their minds. That's it. They don't live out here where you and I do. There's no out here. It's only right here, 100% of the time.
In
I
your
mean, two,
experience,
oh, sorry.
were there signs of this previously, the rage aspect of it, or you went through a period where it's like, you identify the narcissism, and all of a sudden, rage over a period of time, and it wasn't there previously, like a pressure cooker after time.
So it shows up a little bit at a time, right? So even that, like full out rage episodes that I saw later on in the relationship, I didn't see in the beginning. They would be little bursts. And remember, I grew up in a very volatile household. So I already have my tolerance for people acting psychotic, going into narcissistic rages is up here compared to somebody who was raised in a healthy home and their tolerance would be way down here like, whoa, I don't know what you got going on, but I'm out. So I already have a preconditioned mindset of like, well, a little bit of rage is okay as long as it doesn't get out of hand. Now, you don't outwardly think it. It's it's subconscious. You know, it's it's totally subconscious. And the rage episodes did get worse. I mean, we had this fight one time. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. We had this fight one time and we were like in bed and he got out of bed in his underwear, screaming at me. I turned the lights on. He grabbed his stuff because we weren't living together at the time or anything. He was just staying over. Grabbed his stuff, ran out of the house after standing there screaming at me in the laundry room, ran out of the house with like, didn't even put his clothes on. And I think it was like even winter. I don't even remember now. But just like, if I could have videoed that, you would be like, wow, that really is like a giant toddler.
Wow.
Like, you know, the behavior, the things that they say, they're not like having a healthy, normal, like even screaming match, if you will. Like, there's no intelligence to it. It's just a way for them to throw a fit and to terrify you, really. I mean, it is, I personally think, and I'm not, don't quote me on this because I don't know for sure if it's true, but I have seen them flip the switch. And I think they do it because they like people to feel afraid of them.
Hmm.
Now, I'll go on a little bit of softer side of that just because there is that level of when somebody has been as abused as what I know my ex was. Um, when they hit narcissistic injury to a point, they're they're literally afraid for their life. It's like it is PTSD, you know, it is. Doesn't make it right.
Yeah,
Not
I never considered that part of it. We don't condone anything that somebody does in those
right.
regards. Um, it's just understanding, how somebody was brought up, etc. But isn't it, if closing here, isn't it interesting, Sherry, when you look back at your journey, mine, everybody's, if you've gone through some stuff, that you look back and you say, why did I accept that back then? Why?
Yeah.
And there's no judgment, there's no, whatsoever. But it's like you get to a point in your life where it's like, no, that's not. I'd rather be, in a cave by myself than to deal with all this other crap
Yeah.
that's on around me. And I guess it's the word peace. Once you
Yeah.
figure out what, I certainly me, when I was younger, or even older, go to church, peace be with you, peace be with you, peace be with
Yep.
you, and they was like, yeah, okay, peace be with you, yeah, and I'd leave, and I'm like, what are you even talking about? Until you
Yeah.
realize you don't have peace in your life. And then when you figure it
Yeah.
out, oh, that's what that's like. Well, that's actually
Yeah.
really good. Peace within yourself.
And victims have a lot of shame when they leave,
Of course.
just for exactly what you're saying. Like, why did I stay? Victims, nobody has to blame the victim because the victim blames themselves
Yeah,
harder than anybody ever will.
and
And I'm
it's
sure you know that.
you're right. You're right. And sometimes not easy. You have to release it. And I know this is a cliche, but I accept it as I analyze it. You learn from it. You learn from it. You learn about yourself,
Absolutely.
um, and you learn what's right. A lot of insight in your books and your coaching. How do we connect with you, Sherry? How do we do that?
My website is the best way. It's soulfullywild.com.
Simple as that. You got it all there. Awesome. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
today.
too.
Thank you for your transparency. I really appreciate that. And
Thank you.
I enjoy hearing and appreciate hearing everyone's story because we all get something from it. Maybe a little piece, a lot, and we're all dealing with stuff, at different times, big and small. So every story is
Yeah.
impactful. And thank you for yours today. Thank you for being here. And
Thank you,
certainly
Steve.
go to the website if you need some support. You're a go-to in this category without a doubt.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right.
Appreciate you, Steve.
Likewise. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up soon.
All right. Take care.
Coming right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.